Hey everybody, this is Josh here. So I'm reading this book and I wanted to share a chapter with everyone I found interesting. I've been reading this on and off for a couple years now, but it's The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly Hall. And I found this one particular chapter that kind of synchronized with the studies I've been doing lately. And the chapter is about flowers, plants, fruits, and trees. So I'm just going to skip past some of it. The first couple paragraphs talk about the ideas of the Garden of Eden, the Ark, the Temple, the power, and all these different things behind these mysteries. But they're mostly just talking about the phallic symbols used in these, by these plants, and how we use the visual interpretation of plants to resemble certain attributes of ourselves. And I'll just start on this third paragraph here because it's kind of interesting. Father, mother, and child constitute the natural Trinity. The mysteries glorified the home as the supreme institution consisting of this Trinity functioning as a unit. Pythagoras likened the universe to the family, declaring that as the supreme fire of the universe was in the midst of its heavenly bodies, so, by analogy, the supreme fire of the world was upon its hearthstones. The Pythagorean and other schools of philosophy conceived the one divine nature of God to manifest itself in the threefold aspect of the Father, Mother, and Child. These three constituted the divine family, whose dwelling place is creation, and whose natural and peculiar symbol is the 47th problem of Euclid. God, the Father, is Spirit. God, the Mother, is Matter, which is another synchronicity because Eric just mentioned Mother Matter earlier. And the God, the Child, the product of the two, represents the sum of living things born out of and constituting nature. The seed of spirit is sown in the womb of matter, and by an immaculate, pure conception, the progeny is brought into being. Is this not the true mystery of the Madonna holding the holy babe in her arms? Who dares to say that such symbolism is improper? The mystery of life is the supreme mystery, revealed in all of its divine dignity and glorified as nature's perfect achievement by the initiated sages and seers of all ages. The prudery of today, however, declares the same mystery to be unfit for the consideration of holy-minded people. Contrary to the dictates of reason, a standard has been established which affirms that innocence bred of ignorance is more to be desired than virtue born of knowledge. Eventually, however, man will learn that he never need be ashamed of truth. Until he does learn this, he is false to his God, to his world, and to himself. In this respect, Christianity has woefully failed in its mission. While declaring the man's body to be the living temple of the living God, in the same breath it asserts that substances and functions of this temple to be unclean, and their study defiling to the sensitive sentiments of the righteous. By this unwholesome attitude, man's body, the house of God, is degraded and defamed. Yet the cross itself is the oldest of all phallic emblems, and the lozenge-shaped windows of the cathedrals are proof that Ionic symbols have survived the destruction of the pagan mysteries. The very structure of the church itself was permeated with phallicism. Remove from the Christian church all emblems of priapic religion, and nothing is left. Even the earth upon which it stands was, because of its fertility, the first Ionic symbol. As the presence of these emblems of the generative processes is either unknown or unheeded by the majority, the irony of the situation is not generally appreciated. Only those conversant with the secret language of antiquity are capable of understanding the divine significance of these emblems. Flowers were chosen as symbols for many reasons. The great variety of flora made it possible to find some plant or flower which would be a suitable figure for nearly any abstract quality or condition. A plant might be chosen because of some myth connected with its origin, as the stories of Daphne and Narcissus, because of the peculiar environment in which it has thrived, such as the orchid and the fungus, because of its significant shape, as the passion flower and the Easter lily, because of its brilliance or fragrance, as the verbena and sweet lavender, because it preserved its form indefinitely, as the everlasting flower, because of the unusual characteristics, as the sunflower and heliotrope, which have long been sacred because of their affinity for the sun. The plant might also be considered worthy. Now this is the part that kind of interested me. The plant might also be considered worthy of veneration because from its crushed leaves, petals, stalks, or roots could be extracted healing unctions? Sorry, I've never seen that in a while. There's a healing unctions, essences, or drugs affecting the nature and intelligence of human beings, such as the poppy and the ancient herbs of prophecy. The plant might also be regarded as efficacious in the cure of many diseases because of its fruits, leaves, petals, roots bore a resemblance in shape or color to parts or organs of the human body. For example, the distilled juices of certain species of ferns, also the hairy moss growing upon oaks, and the thistledown were said to have the power of growing hair. The dentaria, which resembles a tooth in shape, was said to cure the toothache, and the Palma Christi plant, because of its shape, cured all afflictions of the hands. And then it goes on to talk about the lotus and the various petals of the lotus and the symbolic nature behind that. But I'll leave that for another time. There's another section here about trees. I'll just read the first part. Cultus Arborum. The worship of trees as proxies of divinity was prevalent throughout the ancient world. Temples were often built in the heart of sacred groves, and nocturnal ceremonies were conducted under the wide-spreading branches of great trees, fantastically decorated and festooned in honor of their patron deities. In many instances, the trees themselves were believed to possess the attributes of divine power and intelligence, and therefore supplications were often addressed to them. The beauty, dignity, massiveness, and strength of oaks, elms, and cedars led to their adoption as symbols of power, integrity, permanence, virility, and divine protection. Several ancient peoples, notably the Hindus and Scandinavians, regarded the macrocosm, or the grand universe, as a divine tree growing from a single seed sown in space. The Greeks, Persians, Chaldeans, and Japanese have legends describing the axle tree, or reed upon which the earth revolves. Capilla declares the universe to be eternal tree, Brahma, which springs from an imperceptible and intangible seed, the material monad. The medieval Kabbalists represented creation as a tree with its roots in the reality of spirit and its branches in the illusion of tangible existence. The Sephirothic tree of the Kabbalah was therefore inverted with its roots in heaven and its branches upon the earth. Madame Blavatsky noticed that the Great Pyramid was considered to be a symbol of this inverted tree, with its roots at the apex of the pyramid and its branches diverging 4 streams towards the base. It's a very long book with a lot of varying subjects in it, but considering I've been studying plants and the usefulness of plants, it adds it lends another degree of insight into plants. And sometimes we don't see the forest for the trees. No pun intended there whatsoever. We start looking into these medicines and plants as being medicines, not realizing that perhaps the very shape of the flower itself, the color, the smell, are all important, but the shape itself may very well be a metaphor for this is useful for this. And in a lot of ancient lore, they used a lot of these plants in that way. And one might be led to believe, well, they just used it because they thought it worked. Maybe it was maybe it was all in their heads. But as more and more of these medicines come forward and turn out to be useful alternatives to any type of modern pharmaceuticals, and not just for health reasons, but spiritual health, mental health, I guess it's just another angle for me to consider when I'm doing my plant studies. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that. I found it kind of interesting. There's way too much to absorb. That's why I don't read books very much on videos, because I know when I'm reading something out loud, anybody could go anywhere and just read that themselves. But if I find a part that I find interesting, I like to share it. So hope you're all doing well, and